honorable sisters, brothers, and friends. This is Preacher Doc True Videos 24/7, video number 4. Well, this is maybe an improvement over the previous video. I should practice maybe my pronunciation and enunciation and try to not combine certain words because I am forced to be just a regular Joe, and supposedly I haven't achieved what I really have achieved, and been forced to survive. And in that type of trying to survive, you don't really practice maybe having such a distinguished appearance and scholarly pronunciation and enunciation. Maybe you're forced to be yourself and tell it like it is. Well, the criminally insane homo hooverists, they use certain gyrations, told maybe or even directed by a quack artist, because they then could interfere or try to degrade you and so forth. So they can say like, oh, gee, better be careful. And when I was in Washington, D.C., I had somebody point a gun about 10 feet in my head alone on a university campus. I was there conferring with one of the physicists there in reference to futuristic energies they call quark. They give it a fancy name, kind of even silly. I call it a quamvel, quantity of matter at a velocity equal to or greater than the velocity of light. And but didn't shoot him. Wow. So they got certain gyrations where especially now my injuries and age, you're going to die. Since about 1975, my main interest and challenge has been in the discipline of theology. And in science, I take the historic philosophical viewpoint because I don't have time maybe to put in all of the details. I just put the main headlines and the main verification of what I present, and I prove everything that I ever present. Now, by theology, there is where Christ, in my opinion, proved his divinity. He gave a man that was born blind sight, the power to grant sight to a man born blind. That's creation besides the power of the sight, where somebody had sight and then he restores their sight. Do you understand? And you have to read that. It's in the New Testament, of the adversarial proceedings of this man who said, all I know is I was born blind, and I don't know who it was, but he gave me sight, and I'm not going to deny that. Now, all I know is I invented and gave it the name Xerox and did the absolute scientific work and brought forth the science of optical pumping and lightification of electromagnetic radiation, the laser futuristic multi-purpose coherent beam. That's number one in the world. Then who is your truly? Do you understand? Yet They keep the public from knowing me and say I don't own anything, and I'm even financially embarrassed. How clever. How corrupt. How violation of my constitutional rights, the Bill of Rights. And if I had my money, I could help those who need help, because it's been established that the 1% at the top in the U.S., they're getting more and more control of the government, and more of the big contracts to make big money, like in Iraq, which made billions. That war in Iraq. And it's been proven they were false reports why we went to war there. But now they're at war, they had to keep at war, and all that trillions of dollars. So, the top 1% is now gained in the last few years, at least decade, 150% gain in their wealth, and way more in their power of controlling, running the government. That 1% is more money than 50% of the rest of the people in the U.S. I'll repeat that with emphasis. The top 1% now has accumulated more money than 50% of the U.S. population people. You see, there's a lot of stirring going on in other countries. The natives are getting restless. They know that they're being cheated out of their fair share of the work they do, and especially then they say, well, you have to practice austerity. How can you improve your economy if there are 10% out of work, and you're going to take and keep firing people because you got to have austerity, and then you have 15% unemployed? How does that improve your economy? I don't write these jokes. I'm just report from what and some of these analysts are real good, real sharp. And you learn some things on international TV you don't see on U.S. TV. So they have gyrations. They could shoot me. I thought they were going to, 10 feet alone. I'm going to die. Well, you know, at injuries and age, well, yeah, I have to consider that. But now my main interest and challenge is the discipline of theology. It's really 1975. I got bored the political nonsense of power politics and science and inventions, the boring hype of, especially of Einstein. You got something. What's best? The discipline of theology. How do we get here? Why are we here? What best to do? So I present my science and prove what I present, and I'm forced to use from a viewpoint of historical, philosophical viewpoint, not 300 plus or minus pages of something to prove that, in my opinion, you can't violate Galileo's universal law of the addition of component velocities. And that's one of the things that I noticed. There was a Roger J. Anderton, Anderton, in the publication General Science. You can look it up. They get maybe more blunt or less, whatever. He spoke quite bluntly and said that what Einstein has done is what I've been saying. He substitutes a mathematical schema. He says, but some of that is mathematical nonsense. Then he says, and he uses some mathematical steps and reduces it, that if you insist on using that the square root of 1 minus v squared over c squared. In his relativistic mathematics, the way he does it, he shows eventually you'll get that if you add c minus v, you will obtain c, just c. He says, well, that's, that's kind of insulting, so to speak, that you have to accept what Einstein says, because he says there's nothing greater than the velocity of light. Although it's known that phase velocity and group velocity of light is a greater velocity than the velocity of light of light, but they say it doesn't transmit information. Well, if you're talking about the velocity of phase velocity and velocity of group velocity is d over t, the same as it is for c d over t. I think that's not only information, it's the same information, or certainly similar. Well, like I said, I don't write these jokes, I just report. So they kind of saying, well, you're going to die. Well, if I'm going to die, then I better put a little more emphasis and a little more speaking louder, even tougher, whatever it takes, to get my honors and reasonable compensation for my Xerox, X-E-R-O-X, from Western New York, did the original work of Xerox and lightification of electromagnetic radiation. I'll say it again, lightification of electromagnetic radiation. Laser beam. Oh, you must have heard of laser beam. You haven't heard of old now preacher Doc, because I got bored with the plagiarism of science and theology. And so, if the laser beam is number one, then who am I? I hear, well, demand your Constitutional Bill of Rights and that you should have honors and reasonable compensation. Of course. I put life first more than honors and money. And I'm not 88 because the criminally insane J. Edgar Hoover and Hoovers wanted me to be 88 and be able to put forward these true facts. Narrowly got killed in an accident. Now, all right, so, but those criminally insane Hooverists, they go through these gyrations. Christ gave sight to man born blind. And you have to read the adversarial, that's in the court argument as to who is saying what. Realize who's saying the truth and so forth. And this man said, look, all I know is I was born blind and now I have sight. So whoever gave me that, I will not deny that. This is the truth. He said, I'm telling the truth. Now I'm telling the truth. I had a vision. I said, well, at least 50% I think I was dreaming. But then as you analyze, and now that I'm a preacher, if somebody asked me, did you ever have a vision? Because I used to say, no, that's for sure. I never heard any voices. No one has ever spoke to me. I don't speak to God, I pray. And as I'm praying, I hope God hears me and accepts my prayer. But in this vision, if I was dreaming, then I also dreamt that I was checking to see if I was dreaming by touching physical things and then starting to get up and realizing I can't see past that vision. It's opaque. I'm going to touch that vision to see if it's really a vision. And I doubt it because it said my name. No, I doubt that. I don't think Jesus Christ knows me personally, is what I thought at the time. So when I went to touch the vision, like a puff of smoke just disappeared. Absolute true fact. Am I religious? Yes. Am I more than that? Now I have to say yes. What I have survived since 1947 is, you might say, I've been a martyr in surviving this criminally insane homo hooverism. And they say, well, you're going to die. Well, according to Christ, who proved he was divine by that giving sight to that blind man, and he would say a commandment, or when he spoke, in my opinion, maybe that is a commandment. And he said, if you don't believe in my truth, you're dead. So now the ones that are running around with their gyration that are going to maybe die, I don't know, maybe you're dead. You better check on your condition. I have to just get my daily exercise, which I call base golf, and I intend to obtain the honors and reasonable compensation by my now 24/7 true facts. Thank you, and God bless.